Good afternoon. I'm Kim Neesmith. I am the Data Governance and Privacy and Ed Tech Director for the Louisiana Department of Education. And I'm excited that you're here. And we also have my co-host. I'll let her introduce herself. You're muted.
Hi, this is Carol Mosley, also who works in Ed Tech and Technology for the Division of Administration and the Office of Technology, and the Office of Technology Support and the Department of Education.
And so we're excited that you're here today. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen so that we can have a conversation. Okay, so here we go. I hope y'all are enjoying the virtual summit. I hope it's been fun for y'all. If you have been enjoying it, why don't you, can you give me, I think we have thumbs up. Can y'all give thumbs up? Let me know if you're enjoying yourselves in these sessions. Oh, there's some thumbs up. Awesome. Just kind of wanted to see how y'all are doing and if you're enjoying it. All right. So strong start for 2020, technology for continuous learning. And so the first thing I want us to do is I want us to just take a little look at what we are, our plan is for today. So we're going to talk about the objectives, our goal, how we're going to achieve the goal. We're going to talk about devices, services and supports, internet short-term, mid-term, and long-term solutions, and then some next steps. So we first would like to do a little poll where we get a feel for who's in the room. So give me 1 second, and I am going to get that poll going for us. Okay, so if you would just go ahead and answer the poll, and let's see who we've got in the room. And actually, I'm not sure if you guys can see it or not, but I'm going to put it right here so that you can see who everybody is. Right now, the principals and assistant principals are winning. And I still have several of y'all that need to fill it out, a little over 10. Okay, about 15 more people need to fill it out. So go ahead and let us know who you are. Teachers have taken the lead. Teachers have taken the lead. Okay, so if you're just joining, if you would, please let us know who you are based on this poll. Who's in the room? I'd like to get to 100%. So, oh, it's doing better. It just did a jump. Okay, keep filling it out for me. Let's see who's going to win in the end. Teachers overtook principals and assistant principals, and curriculum leaders were next, but I don't know. District administrators might be coming around. Okay. So thank you so much for letting us know who's in the room, because this kind of helps us figure out exactly how we want to talk about this. Because depending on who you are, what your role in helping make this happen is different. And so we wanted to just kind of get a feel for who was in the room so we could tailor our presentation towards that. So Yeah, so if I share the results here with everybody, teachers win at 32% and assistant principals at about 26%. And then we'll go down to curriculum leaders and district administrators next. So very interesting to see who is able to join us today. So this is the session objectives that we put out there for people to know how to sign up. And what we saw was that we were thinking this was more at a district leader kind of curriculum or kind of a technology session. But what we found is a whole lot of other people really wanted to join. And so what we've done is we've kind of adjusted what we're doing to try to fit the participants that are actually here, because we wanted it to be a worthwhile use of your time. And so, so what I thought we would do is focus on the goal. Basically, in anticipation of some kind of closure in the following year, some kind of, reissuance with COVID, some kind of possible, some kids can't come to school, some kids can. Knowing that there might be some kind of issue next year, we wanted to make sure that everybody is ready and able to make a strong start for the 2021 academic year. And to do that, and to prepare for the uncertainty of what's going to happen, students and teachers need one-to-one access for their devices as well as for their internet. And this also includes making sure we have assistive technology for students with disabilities. And so that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to talk about how to accomplish that goal and how we can get there. Currently in Louisiana, an estimated 34% of students do not have access to the internet. And about 33% do not have access to a school-issued device. And if all the devices available to school systems were issued, there would still be a deficit of 237,000 devices in the state of Louisiana. And I think the key point here is that now more than ever, students need access to devices and internet. They can't function and handle this technology for continuous learning without access to that. And even more than that, our students cannot compete with their peers nationwide if they do not have access to internet and a device. And so my favorite way of saying this to everybody is it's like water and electricity. Everybody needs to have access to water and electricity in their home. And we're at a place where every child needs access to internet and a device so that they can function and compete. And so I think we're probably all on the same page, everyone that's in the room. So let's see. So steps to achieve this goal. Carol and I were charged with how to address this issue and how to help get us there as fast as we can, come up with some plans. And so what we ended up doing was issuing some guidance out to school systems that basically followed this outline. We provided an easy way to survey families so that you could see where the holes are, where the gaps are, and get a handle on what we needed to provide to families. Then we wanted to think about the device and know I'm sorry, I get distracted. Then we wanted to think about the device and what kind of instruction is needed. Sometimes for career and technical education courses, you need a really beefed up machine. And in other cases, when you're dealing with smaller children, you might want to use a tablet. This middle age range, you might want to use a Chromebook. And then as they get a little older and have to have a little bit more horsepower, possibly a Windows device or an Apple, a more full-fledged laptop. Anyway, and then we needed to provide devices for those folks that were lacking them at home. We also wanted to make sure that as districts were providing those devices, that they were able to have support services drummed up, a way for them to do this, because issuing all those devices would be really hard to manage. And so we worked on coming up with a solution there as well. We also then wanted to think about the internet option that works for those people who are lacking access at home. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But in general, you have an affordability issue as well as possibly an availability issue. And sometimes you have both in some regions. And so how to address that situation, and then how do we address these dead zones? So this is kind of the steps that we came up with on how to achieve this. So let's just stop for a second and let's go ahead and do another poll. And we want to see how you guys are doing when it comes to what your plans are. So I am launching a poll right now. And if you guys could share with me, it'd be really helpful. Okay, we're only at 70% of people voting. So let's go ahead and let us know what you think. What's your estimation of where you are at? I'm going to put this over here because I find it fun to watch. I want y'all to be able to watch too. Jamie K, I'm not sure what's happening. Are you using, here, let me shoot you a quick, note, Jamie. She's telling me she's having some issues with the poll. Okay, we are at about 81%, and it looks like most folks feel like they have some work to do. I'm really proud of that we're ready to go in some of these areas. I'm really appreciating that. And then some significant work to do. I know it is a lot, and it is a lot. Carol, are you on? I think we're having some issues with folks that use Chromebooks being able to submit polls. Is there anything we need to know there to do different?
Not that I know, but I'll look into it.
Okay. So we're going to check on that. She's the queen of technology for real. I just am an aspiring queen, but she is the queen. And so, okay. So that's very, very helpful to see where y'all are at. So let's go ahead and let's look at devices and how we address the need for devices. That whole section on here are the steps. Now we're going to break those steps down and talk about how we addressed it and let you know what options are out there so that you have the ability as a school, as a teacher, as a principal, as a curriculum instruction person, to be able to help advocate for the children in your school. We want you to be able to know, here are the options that we put out there. And so sometimes that's very, very helpful to know what's available so that you can then choose how to support and how to advocate. So we wanted to make sure using it. Okay, so I'm just going to give y'all a quick little update that I'm hearing from some folks that the school issued Chromebooks sometimes have a pop-up blocker established, and that might be why you're not able to do the poll, because it's not letting you do that. So, but anyway, we'll just go ahead and keep working on talking this through. So using a competitive bid, state contracts, using competitively bid state contracts, we've worked with some major computer manufacturers that we knew were willing to give us some discounts. There are a few others out there that just really weren't willing to give discounts, but we worked with folks that was willing to help us negotiate a really, really low price. And so what we did on that is we put these options out there. We put these options out there for school districts to be able to go in and bulk purchase. Some of the add-ons that we had available is setup and deployment, white glove services, which means you kind of get everything ready there. You can see it's enrollment, assessment, reporting, laser etching, tagging, pickup and return support, next day exchange, in-home on-site service after remote diagnosis, which was really with all the Dell devices. So this is very, very helpful for folks if you're having issues with the computer not working, because managing all those computers out in the area would be very, very challenging. And then warranties. We are periodically updating that, and school systems, schools can purchase large quantities and use this low cost. If I have any district folks out there, the $1 million cap that is usually there about for purchasing things where you would have to go out for a bid, if you do that, that has been removed so that you can order as many as you need to order. So that is one of the ways we are trying to help address the device shortage, is to get some really great prices and some great guidance there. Carol, if we have our latest PowerPoint, can you also send a link to that to everybody, because I'm getting asked for that. So here's some examples of the devices that we were talking about. Windows devices ranging from as low as $239 to about $800. Chromes, tablets, and then all-in-one, which are LTE devices, which basically means you have the ability, you have a MiFi kind of inside of a computer, so you're able to access the internet using cellular or connections. So these are the examples of exactly what we put out there in guidance for school systems. Now, in support and help desk, what we did was we were very concerned about the ability for folks to be able to support this, because I know your technology staff is do not have a lot of people, and it's very limited. And so some of the things that Carol, actually, when I say we, I really mean Carol, that Carol came up with was that it's built into the device, the Dell devices, right? So you've already got this warranty and this in-home help. Carol, found another source of, so that even if you purchased a different device, you were able to purchase this support. And so if you guys have any sway with anyone, I would highly recommend that they purchase devices with some support, because I think it's going to be really challenging without it. And so this slide that you're seeing talks about that support that can be purchased. Additionally, there is absolute device management. And what this does is it tracks the device. So let's say the device is stolen. This information can be used by the police to recover the device. This information, if somebody says it's stolen or says it's lost, this information will help you be able to track down that device and recover it. And so we've also shared this with the technology folks in every district. And this is some more information on that software that can be downloaded and put on the device.
And it's something that allows you to both control, manage, and see what's happening on a device. So, for example, we had a district who lost a device, and the company went ahead and they tracked it all the way to South Africa, picked the device up, and brought it back to us. So they do tracking, but it also provides a report to know which software your students are using on that device, how much they have used that device, be able to see, kind of what's kind of happening in it. It does management to know and track kind of your inventory of who you assign that device to, who do you need to get it back. So it has a lot of different features. This package is usually $50 per device. We negotiated it down to $5 because we knew it was important for a lot of schools. And it also gave a lot of flexibility. And another area where you can report on as a teacher and see what's happening with your students.
Okay. Let me go back over here. Internet. So internet, as I said earlier, internet kind of comes into two buckets, right? Like, I am a family, internet is available, but I can't afford it. We don't make enough money to pay for internet. And then there is this place where we are in rural Louisiana, where I have all the money in the world, but I cannot get internet here. And then you also have the overlap. I'm in rural Louisiana, and I can't afford it, nor are there any options for me. So we have those buckets of internet situations. So in order to, we've got short-term, mid-term, and long-term solutions to try to meet the needs of students and administrators. Carol, do you want to take this slide, or do you want me to do it?
I can do it. I can go through and look at it. So we have various options out there for our different schools, looking at the needs based on what is quickly available. So as we've looked at that, you can do a lot of things really near term. There are other items that, it's going to take a little bit of planning, but we can put that in place over these summer months in order to get it available in the event that we need it when school begins. And then there's going to be those really long-term options that will require several months potentially of planning and may take more than 6 months, a year, 2 years to actually, bring to fruition. So we're working on all of these different areas and constantly updating as we go through. To give you kind of a high overview in looking at this, part of that is looking at those quick points, broadcasting internet at your school out to those outside areas, working with families on applying for low-cost internet options, working with your housing and urban development agencies to provide internet in all of their different low-income housing facilities, expanding access to libraries, community centers, churches, and other civic organizations where there is a safe location for kids to go and get access to the internet when they are unable to get access at their home. You can also work with your local parks and recreation centers, identifying and publishing free Wi-Fi that's available at businesses, or working with businesses to establish those, creating Wi-Fi hotspots using your school buses and other things, looking at expanded cellular coverage. So we're working with providers on this, building new fiber and home connections, as well as looking at other options and working with you and hearing back from you on those underserved and unserved areas where we need to provide something. We know we're not going to be able to hit everybody. There's always going to be that one child who lives down that 3-mile, 4-mile gravel road that is going to be, a little bit longer term to get to with a home-based solution. But we're going to try to hit as many as we can and identify those. And that's where it's key to work with y'all to find out where those needs are and how we can address them appropriately.
Thank you. And so I am going to take it from the Carol technology genius mind to the Kim mind. And so if that helps some of you guys. So there are choices, right? Like, so you're in a situation where you can't, getting a MiFi to a student is not going to help. So there is money out there for low cost MiFis and low cost plans. So you can either get families a MiFi for the kid to use, and there is CARES Act money, as well as probably soon coming some governor's money of his CARES Act to help pay for that. You can also help pay for students' home internet access, or you can help point them to those very low cost options, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But there are some times that you can't do either one of those. And so what we are suggesting is creating a hotspot, sort of like when you go to the McDonald's parking lot and you can get access to the internet there if you choose to. Creating hotspots in various places in your community. As a matter of fact, if anybody's here from West Feliciana's IT folks are looking at putting these hotspots in churches, because there's churches in every community. And so people can come to the church parking lot, download their assignments, go back home, work on their assignments, and then upload back again from the church parking lot. Also, there are people across the nation that are setting up buses for this. So they go to one neighborhood one day of the week, and Tuesday is in another neighborhood, Wednesday and Thursday. And that's often helpful for urban areas. The churches, the schools, amplifying the schools' Wi-Fi so that people in the parking lots and even in nearby communities can use it, is often used more in rural areas. So basically, they're talking about taking a spot and making it where folks don't have to go too far, but can go and download if they want to, or go view something if they would like in those locations. Of course, the best thing is for them to be able to have access at home. Remember, I talked about it being like water and electricity. So we really need to get to that place, and we're working on that. But in the short term, in this crisis mode, where we're trying to make sure kids don't lose another 2 months, these are some of the solutions that we can look at doing, and look at making sure we have some federal funding to help make that happen. Okay, when you look at it like this, so that when we're looking at getting internet in the home, rather than going to these mobile locations, MiFis, home internet access that's really, really low, an LTE device, which we talked about a minute ago, which basically has a MiFi in the device. And then also sometimes all we can do is a cell phone. Like maybe they literally, there's no way they can get internet access. And at least if we can get them a cell phone where they can then talk to their teacher on a regular basis. In our guidance that we have on the website that we can also post a link to here, each of these places where it says plan over here, it has the latest, greatest plans that are available for families. I believe on some of the home internet, we're talking literally $10 a month. Is that right, Carol?
We have some that are down to $5 a month based on the plan. And there is also, depending on if they are low income, they may qualify for some other subsidy programs that will offset that cost.
Right. And so we do know that urban centers, housing centers, that they have been given some specific money that they were looking to spend that way. We also are looking to see if there is a way we can leverage some of the federal dollars that are spent that will allow internet to be purchased for it too. And so that information will be forthcoming once we get like the final stamp of yes, this works. And so what we want to do is we want to try to get internet in those homes. It's like back in the days when people didn't have electricity in their home. We're back to that kind of stage where the disadvantages for the family are so great. Short-term offers from AT&T, a lot of these are listed here. I'm not going to necessarily go into all those details, but we will be, Carol linked the slide presentation for you so that you can download those. Also Comcast, here are some options for you. Installation is no fee, $10 a month thereafter. Spectrum Charter, Altus, so there are plenty of really low options for short-term in families' homes.
In addition to the family home offers, you will notice a couple of home-based offers. So this one that we had from Cox and from AT&T, these are ones that the students can purchase, but also some are offers where the school can purchase those home-based offerings versus purchasing a cellular plan. And CARES Act funding can be used for that. So we wanted to develop, a combination. We knew in some cases it was families could not afford that plan. In other cases, it was trying to work with families to get to apply for it. So even if they could find the money to try to pay for it, it's trying to work with that family to go through the application process and actually get the lower cost. So it may be places where the school wants to step in, help apply, use that lower cost funding that the family could have had to help offset it, and the school assist in that process. So that's some of the things that, we want to make sure we give multiple options to you.
Right. AT&T cellular, really low cost options there for families in need. Verizon LTE machines. Also, the other thing that a lot of districts need to consider is SIPA. SIPA is a requirement that basically says when we are giving students access to the internet, we need to make sure that we are filtering and monitoring that to make sure that students aren't exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to. And so Carol has worked diligently with our providers to get costing on devices that actually do this filtering for them so that they can then feel safe issuing. We're not going to monitor home usage, but if the school is going to provide a MiFi or provide internet access, here are the options that also help them follow the law in regards to SIPA. So students who live in areas where internet is not available, that's a question we have in the chat box. Big issue, big problem, and we are working diligently to try to solve it. Those hotspots we talked about are some crude, not really helpful, but something that we can leverage. There are other options. Let me just see. I'm kind of forgetting what we have. Let me just check real quick and see if we have a slide coming up on that.
We do.
We do. So I'm going to hold on that, Kim, and we're going to go there some more. Thank you, Carol. So let's go ahead and push through this. Let's do another poll. So basically, if a low-cost plan could be created for families with subsidies to offset the cost for them, would the families that you know of purchase it? Do you think that they would be willing to? And what is the biggest challenge that you see in regards to trying to help kids get internet? And I know we've got this question out here about where it's not even physically available. We're definitely going to go there. But let's go ahead and take a look at this poll. And I am going to set it up where we can all see what everybody's saying. It's very interesting to see y'all's thoughts on this. I'm going to try to keep my mouth shut and let y'all answer.
And do know that your answers are truly helping us as we design and work on all of the different alternatives in trying to address this. We know it's a huge challenge out there, and and it's not just K-12s to solve. This is a state problem. It's a community problem. But our focus is ensuring, that we provide y'all with the supports that's needed so that your kids that you're most concerned about have that access.
Okay, we have, I'm waiting on a few more of y'all to go ahead and put your opinion in here. We're only at 69% of people responding. So former high school teachers have a pretty good wait time capabilities. Okay, so from some of the folks that aren't able to participate in the polls, I want them to kind of voice what they're telling me via the chat. And that is that nearly all the kids have internet, but they complain that it is terrible or slow and in and out, and they're in a rural district. And so that is a very big issue that we are working to make happen, working to solve. So it looks like no internet service at home, and then the spotty internet service is a big deal right there next to they can't afford it. And then if there was a low cost plan, some would do it, but others it would be a challenge for them. So that is that's kind of what we were thinking, but it's really great to have some anecdotal evidence from you guys in regards to what those thoughts are. So thank you very, very much for that. So now let's talk about some midterm to long-term solutions for the internet. And so some midterm solutions, are the mobile bus hotspots that we talked about and public hotspots. And we are providing opportunities for districts to see what some of those are, and as well as we've got a working group with some district level staff where we are trying to convene and look at some possible regional solutions, right? Like, so the ability to access internet doesn't immediately change when you cross the parish line. And so looking at things as a regional group and working together to regionally solve a problem is one of the angles that we are going with. And this is Carol being very smart, but this is about mobile bus hotspots, and it explains how it works. And basically, if anybody is interested in looking into this more, we can connect you with it. But this basically explains how it works, and you just set up the bus with internet access, and folks can be in their homes, and it's broadcasting to the neighborhood. If you need to park it somewhere, if I was going to park it somewhere, I would probably, if I wasn't going to a neighborhood, I would probably use like a church or a public place and put it in there and let people come to the parking lot rather than parking a bus in a parking lot. But those are all options.
And I will add for that also, some districts are looking at using these where they have a greater concentration of students and putting in kind of a community Wi-Fi access point to expand it to that smaller group. So if you have a bunch of kids living in the same apartment complex, or you have a trailer complex where kids are, and in some cases, it's just, there may be other towers or other equipment out there where a business would let you add this equipment to their external service, external business, to give yet more spots where students can go. We know that in some cases transportation is difficult for students, but we do want to try to get those services out there, locate them, find them, and if the district can't do it, maybe at the state level, we can do some larger areas. So we're even looking at state facilities where we could place these to help out across the state as we try to get services everywhere.
Carol, there was a question about, do the bus hotspots have to have self-service to work? So I'm gonna pitch that.
So there are self-service ones. There is also, as we get into the next slide, where we talk about mobile cellular towers, where we can connect these to fiber or internet hard line connections. So if there is a hard line connection there, we can add these particular items, these particular antennas, to expand services out. Just like we were talking about at the schools, we can do that. With many of the districts, we've been talking about and trying to locate, where are there towers that, water towers that we may be able to use access for? Where are older telecommunications towers, TV antennas? The more we can find out where those assets are, that we may be able to try and install additional services. And some of this will run into what we're going to talk about from a long-term perspective. But as we run into these, we're trying to, basically catalog those areas, work on it so that we can get a holistic solution across the whole state.
So I'm going to kind of give, I'm going to give the dumbed down version of what I think, and Carol, if I miss it, correct me.
Yep, go ahead.
But there is the possibility to connect into wires, fiber, some kind of, hardwire connection, where you can then broadcast that signal, and the bus could be a receiver of that signal and then turn around and broadcast to those people that are around it. So it would still be using cellular in a sense, but be pulling from a line instead of paying for a cellular price. And so that's going to give you a better solution. But let's go ahead. That does lead very well into, that leads into our next slide, which is, what are some things we can do? So this is the answer to those people that were talking about, hey, we don't have internet access here. One of the things that can happen is you can have a portable cell tower, and that portable cell tower basically goes to the place where you are having a really hard time with families receiving access, or like the 1 bar, 2 bar kind of thing. Nothing's consistent. And what it does is it just puts a tower up there to receive and amplify the cell signal that's already there. And so it just takes it to the next level of strength of internet available in that area. And so this is one of the reasons I was wanting folks to think about things regionally. It might make sense for them to go together to have a tower put in a certain area. And of course, we're hoping, based on the number of MiFis that are getting purchased and plans that are getting purchased, that we will can put some pressure on some of the providers, hopefully, to be generous and kind and to foot the bill of these mobile towers. So that's one option that we're looking at. Another option that I'll mention that one of the school systems mentioned, and this is getting very, very techy, even at my level, but it's basically the school would broadcast their signal from a line, and then they would have a home in a neighborhood that's receiving that signal and turn around and broadcasting it to the people in that neighborhood. Those are other options that can happen. The problem with our rural areas is we've got mountains, we've got trees, we've got physical things that are in the way that are affecting it. But that does bring us to the long term. So short-term solutions for folks that have no internet access at all is to possibly get some mobile towers in there and to set up some places where they can go to download or go to work. Whether it's the library, whether it's you beef up your internet at the different schools and they can go to the school parking lot, whether you use a mobile bus, whether you use the churches in the neighborhood. But that is the problem we're trying to solve for Louisiana short term. Long term, we've got some bigger things, some bigger fish to fry for long term. So let's go ahead and look at the next one. Long-term solutions. And I am literally going to try to be quiet and let Carol talk about this because it's her passion. It's mine too, but it's really her passion and she knows about these options really well.
Yeah, so across the state, we are discussing it, and we have been talking with our legislators. Senator Mizell currently has a bill where we are trying to expand the ability of our electric co-ops to provide internet services using the electric lines. And that will help us get further out and a further reach to our rural homes where there is none. We know you have power. If we have power, we can get internet. So that's one of the big areas we are trying to look at. We are also looking at legislation that limits the ability or stagnates or holds back our businesses from being able to cost effectively expand internet. So again, trying to find all those different mechanisms as well as
interpret for a second. Okay. So basically, if an internet provider provides service in an urban area where there's a lot of people, they have a lot of opportunity to make money. They go out in the middle of nowhere and provide service, their ability to make money is only as big as the number of people there. So they are not as motivated to provide for those families. So that's Kim's interpretation of Carol's details.
Yep. And so those are the and I know a lot of this is very technical, but it is kind of, how we're trying to address. We also have our Bell Commission, which is made up of various members of agencies, industry, and citizenry. And they are actually looking at all the different ways that, planning for broadband, what we're needed, where do we have service providers, where do we not, how do we incentivize them, what are we going to do? So they are taking that holistic state approach and helping us kind of build out a plan of where we need to go. And so, us at the Department of Education and other state agencies like the Division of Administration, Health and Hospitals, the Housing and Urban Development, all of these different agencies got a little bit of CARES funds. And we're trying to look at how we can pool all that, working with the Bell Commission, working through the legislature so that we can build out, the longer term solutions. Yes, MiFi might get us services for right now, but how are we going to continue to provide services in 2021, 22, 22, 23, and on and on? As Kim stated earlier, this is like electricity and water. Kids have to have this. So that's some of those big, areas. Additionally, we're looking at various USDA grants. Those grants go to both providers, and then there's also smaller grants that are available to schools and libraries for distance learning or smaller efforts, depending on if you're very rural, very poor. So we're going to pull through those grants as well.
I want to kind of interrupt you again, Carol. So okay. I saw a lot of principals and school level officials. Guys, these are school level grants. If you are in a really poor area and in a rural area, you could apply for these grants. Being poor and rural makes it so that you don't have to have a match or a loan match, but it would just be money that could help you in this area. Carol, correct me if I'm screwing it up,
yep,
but is that right?
Yes.
And so if you want to know more about that, you can reach out to us, and by us, I mean Carol, and she can give you more information about that, because I know we're definitely looking at doing that for some of our rural areas. So I just wanted to stop on that and say these USDA grants are a really good opportunity for small schools, and it's at the school level. So you could just take the ball and run with it, because a lot of these options have been district level. This is something at the school level that you can make a difference for your kids.
And I just put, you can email edtech@la.gov in the chat room. So that is an easy way to reach Kim, myself, and Caroline, who are the big tech team here at the state. So yeah, so we have those USDA options. There's also FCC grants out there. A lot of those go to providers, but again, they're looking at adding some additional ones. They are also the group that manage those low income discounted phone connectivity. And that is also where we have the E-rate program, where I know most schools know that that is how we pay for our internet in our schools. So we're looking at their grants and fundings that they have. And as I noted here, E-rate and Lifeline is their other program. The one I did not list here that we are working with as a state agency, we are talking with TANF and SNAP about, and USDA about some other interesting opportunities and ways to use those types of funding to help our low income families get that initial access, or help schools help those families get access in combination to get internet. And the more we understand about where your students are, what their needs are, how we can do this, we're definitely, you know, reaching out, listening to you as we develop these. So it's really key, and it's great that y'all are helping us through these polls and this other information.
So these long-term solutions are about getting broadband, right? It's about like either connecting and using the utility lines that already exist, or extending fiber, or connecting into LONI, which is this connection between universities, which runs all over our state. And so there are options and paths forward. They're just not things that we can turn around for fall or spring. In working with the governor's appointee for the Bell Commission, her goal is to try to have some solutions moving in a year and a half, which would be phenomenal. But the MiFis, the hotspots are not sustainable for long term. And so we need to get Louisiana in the right century, and all our kids having access and equal opportunities to those counterparts in the rest of the nation. And part of that is us making sure we can get internet access to them as well as their families. And so Carol and I are passionate about it and willing to work on it. And we're excited about you guys joining with us. And so when we were thinking about this and thinking about how to shift this whole presentation around to address teachers and school level people, we decided the best thing we could possibly do was share with you the things that we're doing and then ask for your help. And so what we would like to ask you to do is to help us by working with your district staff to make sure that every kid has access to a device and internet. The people closest to the kids know that home situation way better than anybody else. It would be very helpful to have a real grasp on where the needs are. Those district folks are sometimes shooting in the dark. They don't really know. This is why those surveys that we're putting out there are so important, because we need to know who truly needs assistance. Also, you guys are close to the families. You could communicate to the families, hey, here is a low cost solution for you. Here is some COVID-19 stuff that'll get you part of the way. And so by us sharing this PowerPoint to you and all the links, you will be able to have access to the things we've shared with the districts that we've also shared publicly, but you'll be able to know where you can go to find those. And also, we just need some ongoing feedback of how things are working. And so please share with us. One of the other things you can do, which we are definitely looking at, is getting a map or locations of here are places you can go for internet. You can go to the library. You can go and be in their parking lot. You can go to the fire station because we're putting a hotspot there. These are the places that you can go to possibly get access to devices. And so with that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening and thank you for joining us. And we hope that we caused you guys to get a little excited about trying to help kids too, trying to teach in this time where we're having to do it remotely. It's not something everybody prepared for. Carol and I were lucky enough to get to be a part of some ed tech programs and get to do some distance stuff, but I know it's hard, and it's even harder when the kids don't even have the tools they need. And so we want you to know that we are fighting for them, and we would love and appreciate you joining the fight with us. And hopefully we can get our kids what they need so that they can have every opportunity that they deserve. So thank you guys very, very much.
Hi. Thank you guys very much for attending the session. And don't forget to do your